This is some of the biggest news in games we have gotten for game preservation. Xbox is the first game publisher, first console developer to support game preservation. Okay, so obviously, with the backwards compatibility, a lot of old games can be played as of now physically and obviously digitally as well. But you could still buy old 360 games, old Xbox One games, and even original Xbox games on the newest hardware. You don't have to buy an old console. You don't have to, and despite this, it is sad that most people don't want to buy an Xbox console because it's not PlayStation. It's not what Sniper Wolf told me to buy. Okay, I'll stop making that joke that people buy PlayStations because Sniper Wolf told them to buy it. But I wouldn't be surprised if a little kid was told by, by Sniper Wolf. Oh, Sniper, we must get a PS5, but the console wars are pretty infuriating. It would be, cool if PlayStation finally realized that, hey, we have a whole history of consoles and two handhelds. Why don't we have them all playable on our newest hardware? And of course, Nintendo is Nintendo. Nintendo, I think, is doing better than PlayStation with them playing. But again, you have to be subscribed to an online service to access all of these games. And Microsoft, they do have to buy the games. You can't pirate, obviously. And Nintendo, you have to have a subscription, so you can't buy any of these old games, games. But I think with Nintendo, they're at the beginning. But they do have a lot of the old NES, SNES, N64, Game Boy Advance games on the Switch online for anyone to play as long as they have subscribed to the Nintendo Switch Online thing. So basically, they're making it's the commitment to keep all of these games, and it's gonna be pretty hard to preserve every single game because there are some games like Lollipop Chainsaw. Well, there's a lot of copyright issues. I'm using that game as an example because that game they'll literally have to remake the game so without all the copyright issues. Lollipop Chainsaw is basically the mother-free of 360 and PS3 games. Okay, but unlike Nintendo, they'll actually put in the effort to remake the game, keep it true to the original, but get rid of all the copyright issues and problems. Okay, to preserve the game, and the only problem is the music will probably have to change because of the copyright problems. And the same exact problem. This is why on the Wii there was no port of Earthbound because Nintendo had so many copyright issues with that series and IP, as well as is why Mother 3 still hasn't been released into the West because they have really, at least Earthbound was a game they already released into the West, so it was much easier. But Mother 3 is a game they never released in the West. Okay, they'll have to contend with Western copyright law, which is, very different than Japanese copyright law. And yeah. So exclusivity is a strong aspect for PlayStation. But for those who want to play old games like me, I play a lot of older games. Borderlands. The first game I played on the console was the old Viva Pinata game for the 360, the one for the disc. Or you can play a game like Minecraft. I know Minecraft's also on the PlayStation as well, but you can still play the older version of Minecraft if you want to, the Xbox One version. And I don't know about the 360 version, but you can play the old Xbox One version and go back to just a snippet of the past if you want to for nostalgia purposes. Obviously, that will go away if because they literally tried to scrub that old version off the planet. I still think the game should be put on there so people can play the older versions of Minecraft if they want to. Kind of like how they do with PC, Minecraft. But exclusivity is a strong aspect for PlayStation, obviously. They have all the weeb crap that they often have. But Xbox's big selling point is, oh, you can play all these old games. And with retro games becoming popular again, was yes, 360, Wii, and PS3 games, are, and of course before that, are considered retro games. So if you want to play retro games like 360 and original Xbox, well, obviously you have, if you want to play specifically games from those two consoles, you could play them on the newest hardware. There's no barrier. And with the PS5, you can only play PS4 games. That's it. So you want to play the PSP, PS3, where it's again, there's a lot of now like threads about how they're nostalgic for the PS3, but you can't play your PS3 games on the PS5. Okay, you can't play your PS2 games and PS1 games. It is just sad with a company as much history as PlayStation. They're the ones who don't care about backwards compatibility and game preservation. I know Nintendo is not that far ahead of PlayStation in terms of this, as well. But again, people are using emulation to play games for free, play the new big games for free like Tears of the Kingdom. I get emulation. The whole point of emulation is so you can play, something if you own the game. But I think the problem was people were using, especially with Tears of the Kingdom, using emulation to play the game before it comes out. And that causes a big issue for Nintendo. And Nintendo said, you know what? Maybe we should take any further action for Yuzu emulator. But Xbox has reiterated its commitment to preserve games for future generations to play. The only problem with this wording is, what about if you own physical games? Okay, what if the Xbox, let's just say the next Xbox console drops physical games altogether? Well, I have a ton of physical games that I wouldn't be able to play as well. I think Xbox should, give people an ability, the kind of like of emulation to download the ROMs, kind of a, actually do emulation for old games. So if you have a disc version of a game, but the new console doesn't come with a disc, I think Microsoft should give you the option, to emulate your games on the Xbox, to preserve these old games. Because almost every person who owned a 360 and Xbox, original Xbox, even a lot of people for Xbox One, we owned physical games. Okay, we did not own digital games. Yes, I do have like the Halo collection digitally, Minecraft, Metal Gear Rising, that's one, and a lot of the free games they offered for when they used to have those free games. You got like, I think I had Tomb Raider, Assassin's Creed 4 as well. And it says, oh, you get a free game. But a lot of the games I play are physical games. Okay. But at least if at least for digital games, Xbox is saying, you know what? We gotta preserve all these old games. We gotta preserve all these old experiences for newer generations. Okay. Which means we probably see less shutdowns on Xbox consoles for online games, especially with Microsoft games like Halo and stuff, because they want to preserve these games for newer people to play them as well. With third-party games, it'll be much more difficult because, like, for example, Ubisoft shut down The Crew, which was a very popular game, and a lot of the fans of that game was very upset. It says again, Diablo 4, you had a game that came with a lot of people's consoles. Yeah, and of course, I think we already talked about this, but it is, I think, with these old games, because of course, as target consoles get outdated, gets continued, a few such games will be part of online subscriptions, like Nintendo does them, as a fact that digital games are prone to be taken offline virtually right from existence. As a result, it's to preserve these games to safeguard the industry's history. Okay, so while emulators have been a lifesaver for game preservation over the hill, with Xbox coming forward with more backwards compatible games to the future as a move, citizens and fans will have a positive impact in the industry as a whole. And hopefully, obviously, if you support, game preservation, preserving old games, obviously you should support what Xbox is doing with game preservation. I think the only other area of gaming that preserves games is obviously PC. If you put your game on Steam, it's practically on there forever. Okay, but in console gaming, you don't have much of preservation, and there are games that used to be only on console. Okay, which is sad that so many of these companies still want to only put games on PlayStation because PlayStation does not support backwards compatibility. The PS5, you can only play PS4 games. If you want to play, let's just say, a popular PS3 game. Not The Last of Us, because they put that on every freaking version of the PlayStation. That Last of Us is basically Sony's Skyrim. Okay, Sony's. We gotta bring back that game every single time. Okay, let's think of a game that is probably not available on the PS5. Okay. Now, Crash Bandicoot Trilogy is on the PS4, so you can play on the PS5. Okay, we're looking at PS3 games. GTA 5, well, they put it on the newest hardware. Okay. Okay, a game like Infamous or Killzone. Okay, those two games. Okay, I know Killzone's like a Halo. It's like their attempt at Halo. But this is an attempt like, oh, Halo's very popular. Even then, afterwards, Call of Duty became the number one shooter in the world, which was on both consoles, as well. But we're gonna go back to the this year. But Killzone is a game that's on the PS3. It cannot play it, or if the first game was released on like the PS2, and second and third game, which you can't play on the PS5. Okay, I don't know if they re-released them, but you can't play all of them on the PS5. Okay, the single player, multiplayer, they probably shut down for both Killzone 2 and 3, but they can't play those games on the PS5. Okay, for example, let's just put on Xbox games. The first 3 Halo games, outside the MCC, obviously, because you can still play the MCC on, of course, on the, if you have MCC, you can play on the Xbox Series X as well, but you can play all these old Halo games, the originals or the MCC version, then if you have the disc for the old games, or you've had them download and had the games transferred to the Xbox Series X before they're selling down the store, which is this year, basically you have those games preserved. Okay, you have those games preserved and updated. Even then, MCC preserves all those old Halo games and also preserves the anniversary edition of Halo Combat Evolved and the original versions as well, because you can play both the anniversary version and the original version. But the original version, as it came with all those Reach maps, well, all the Reach maps would be put in with all Halo Reach, because that's how it was. But the actual campaign where they have the remastered graphics is still preserved with the MCC. And also they added a Halo 2 anniversary. Halo 3 never received an anniversary, or Halo 4. So sorry to fans of Halo 4 and Halo 3. You guys never got your anniversary versions. Or even a game like Halo 5, was it still often considered the worst Halo game? Hey, at least that game will be preserved, unlike Killzone 2 and 3 or the first Infamous game. Because Sony is only going to preserve the most popular games. Okay, they're only going to port the most popular games like The Last of Us, the Uncharted Collection, Horizon, okay, Spider-Man. Okay, they're only going to do the most iconic games. Okay, that's what I am saying here. They're only going to port the most iconic games. And of course, one of the most popular Xbox games is Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. I don't know if that's on the PS2 as well, but I know that's considered one of the most iconic Star Wars games. Well, guess what? You can play it on the newest console with 4K graphics, okay, if you want to play that game. Or you can play it on Steam if you're a PC fanboy. But if you're a console person, you can obviously buy that game. You're not going to be able to play that game on the PS5. Of course, most people are going to be buying consoles for new games at this current moment because But again, as newer games continue to suck and milk you dry, people are returning back to older games, and that's no surprise. Okay, that's no surprise now as well. For example, until I started playing like Halo recently again, or other games on the the new Xbox console, I didn't really, the last game outside of the Nintendo Switch was Pikmin. I think Pikmin 4. I know I played Pikmin 2 last. I no, last game I played on the Switch was Sonic Superstars. I recorded how you made it, how I got out of the map somehow. But a game like Bioshock, which is also featured here, I can play that on the newest hardware. Okay, I don't have to wait for 2K to report the game to the PS5. Okay, and I think that's the biggest disadvantage of owning a PS5. You can play all these iconic games on the Xbox Series X. You can play Bioshock on there. You can play Batman Arkham Knight on there, which is also featured on here. You can play Fallout New Vegas. You can play Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. You can play Sonic Adventure 2 on the Xbox Series X. Okay, you can play all these games on there. Okay, you don't have to play the newest games. So if you have a massive backlog of already Xbox 360 games and original Xbox games, but you want to play a new console, it's obvious you should have the newest Xbox console, because guess what? You can play at least 90 to 95% of those games. And the rest of those games are not ported because of copyright issues. Okay? Like Lollipop Chainsaw is an example of a game that is not on the newest hardware on the Series X because they have a hard time dealing with the copyright issues of that game, getting the music. And it's the same thing with Mother 3. Okay, they have the same issues as Mother 3 with the rest. Okay, because Lollipop Chainsaw was a game developed in Japan, where they have very different copyright laws than in the US. Okay, but as about this video here, so yes, Microsoft is gonna be preserving video games. So if you love retro gaming, yes. Also, you gotta remember the original Xbox and 360 also has tons of ports of games before the original Xbox as well, like Sonic Adventure 2 or Crash Bandicoot Trilogy. And it is why it's important that we must or the WoW collection where you can play Banjo-Kazooie. So yes, if you want to play Banjo-Kazooie, I know some people play it on the Nintendo Switch under a subscription, but if you also want to play the old Banjo-Kazooie, well, there's a WoW collection. You can play every single WoW game. I really got so I could play Viva Pinata. I didn't want to play anything. I also played Conker and Banjo-Kazooie. Conker was actually a pretty funny game. I got to the poop guy, the talking piece of poop. Maybe I should play that game one day when I'm not sick, because the past couple of days, yes, I can record videos when I'm sick. And also, I'm an adult, so I have to do adult stuff now. But yeah, I do have the WoW collection. I think it's still down here, which is pretty funny. But yeah, it is pretty good that we are now, at least one major company is supporting game preservation, which is a very good thing for the gaming industry as a whole, because there are tons of good experiences that deserve to be preserved at all costs. And that's about this video here. Goodbye.